We are live.
Excellent. Hello, world. This is another session of the weekly Naiji Temple. I am Naiji Coach.
I am Naiji Mitchell.
I am Naiji Ben.
And this is Naiji Glenn.
Sweet. All right. So, as is usual for Naiji Temple, we'll be talking about various things related to Naiji or of interest to Naiji, and we often take the sort of form of detectives because Naiji naturally understand things as detectives of the human condition and the meaning of existence. So we're doing that again today. We don't always have to do it that way, but that is often our preferred way. Today we have three cases to look at. One is some interesting stuff on spirit forms from Naiji Qian, the creative, from our forum. He has some spirit forming stuff he'd like us to chime in on. And then Naiji Multirational has some response to our answering of his question from last week. And then the third item will be Naiji Glenn here from our team had some questions of his own relating to Naiji as far as their peak pathway and then the demands of the world and how one makes compromises in advantageous ways of approaching that. Okay, so I'll go ahead and start off with Qian. I'm just going to read through his email here, and I'll make some light comments as I go through, but I'll try to go through fairly quickly, and then we'll just hand it over the floor.
All right.
Okay, here we go. This is Naiji Qian. I just finished some short writing summarizing a flow of experiences and ideas I had earlier, and would like to share them with you all, and hopefully get some feedback on this spirit story interacting method I'm playing with. Certainly, that's just generally a great thing to do. In Podlair, that's considered a high practice, and Naiji are quite fond of it. All right. So, I'm seeking further understanding of how this process works and how I can start doing it more heroically. For instance, I find it very difficult to maintain the headspace I describe while in my home bubble environment where I can hear disharmonic sounds from the very constricting people I live with. Yes, that's an issue.
Yeah, totally.
That's a big issue. I'm sure we'll be chiming in on a lot. But yes, Naiji can always find a way to their spirits, but environmental factors can make that challenging. In one's home, kind of like the seat of your life bubble, which should be the most conducive, often is not. And so as a general kind of pervasive thing across the planet, is cultural conditioning has made most people's living bubbles be to where it is difficult. It's a challenging modifier for you to find your way to your higher spirits. But it can always be done. Okay. Thankfully, I'm soon moving to a way more awesome living bubble. Good, glad to hear it. Please keep in mind that I was writing to myself initially, and so the voice of this will mostly reflect how I natively write rather than one addressing an audience. Understood. It's a sounding off voice, so we'll take it in that context. The vision is to bring, okay, he goes on here, here's basically what he's got in his mind. The vision is to bring back the way I journeyed and trained through imaginative interplay with my outer and inner environments when I was a child. When you come into a certain state, you can remove the barrier. By the way, if you guys want, it's probably a good idea as I read this out, do you guys have a pen and paper available? As a detective, it's good to do that. I'll probably trigger some things that you might want to say something about, and if you can just write down the keyword or key phrase, I often find when I do logging, for example, that's all I need to let me.
Okay, yeah. I think I'll just type it
Cool.
as it's happening.
Is everybody set on that?
Yeah. And post-it notes all over my desk with keywords and stuff like that.
Right, exactly. Okay. So if you guys are set on that, I'll keep going. Let's see. When you come into a certain state, you can remove the barrier between self and other. Mazu, Daryu, other, Fumas, shiny baby. True. It is from within this state that spirit forms will surface from the depths of your subconscious and show themselves to you. You must properly greet them according to their natures. Your greeting serves as the key, which will do three things. First, it will demonstrate the spirit that you are aware of it. Second, it will demonstrate the spirit that you know what it likes. Third, it will serve as the key or token, which will unlock the spirit for further interaction and communication. It sounds pretty on point so far. Is this a ritual? Interesting question, okay. each spirit forms. He asked that. Is this a ritual? It is, but we can talk quite a bit about what that means. Each spirit form's inspiration is evoked by unique stimuli, and all require different pathways of ritual. This sounds like the voice he's talking in is a voice I've spoken of before when I get my soundings off, where I'm basically teaching me. I'm playing detective with me, and I'm trying to explain to me what I think might the answers be and see what our thoughts on that are. And it's a very effective process for an IG. And if you feel safe enough, which Chien does here, and I'm glad, you can try and include in that process other IG in the actual physical world. And that's a way to augment the process greatly. But it's magnificent and very powerful on its own to simply ask oneself, who am I? What does this mean? And try to talk to oneself and like walk oneself through things and explain the natural law of things to oneself. It's very rewarding, and it's very motivating to try to explain to you what you think it might be so you might do better. It's hard to explain, but if you're not, as you know, talking about to kind of be in this third-person perspective on yourself. Anyway, the finesse of the ritual requires both passivity and awareness in order to be successful. True. I might put awareness before passivity, but we can talk about that. Passivity, because I imagine I would not want to place an obnoxious amount of attention on all spirit forms. We can get more into that, but the issue, the principle there is not going to be amount, it's going to be quality. Quality, not quantity. If you have the right quality of offering to a spirit, then they don't have a limit on quantity. My experience with spirit formings, that their limit on quantity exceeds anything you can ever do. The issue is almost always on quality of offering.
That makes sense.
Let's see here. I certainly do not like it when people stare for so long at me. True. But it's an issue of need. Because of a Nijai who didn't need you, but wanted you. I don't think you would get tired of that attention. In my experience, a Niji when I get tired of the attention of a heroic Nijai who doesn't need you, but wants you. There's nothing wrong with that, and really, again, there's no limit on that. Just the more the better. Because he says here specifically, is this a correct principle or do I have it wrong? No, he's on to something, but it's very important to qualify that it's about quantity. Both for like you going to your spirits, and he's representing himself going towards you. If you've ever had a Nijai who didn't need you, so it wasn't like they were clinging or any way, but they actually just wanted your attention. They wanted your approval. They wanted to spend time with you. You don't really get tired of that, really.
Yeah.
So
Nobody wants to be like relied on, right? Like to that kind of extreme, like needy me kind of-ness.
Right. But to just be wanted without being, that's just pure validation. That's valuation of you in a very high way.
Mm-hmm.
Because that means you can control the amount of interaction to be conducive to you, but they're just saying, whatever you would like to give to me, I want it. That feels good. Okay. One awesome way I engage in interplanetary training, I'm calling it interplanetary training for now, that's fine, I like new words, is going out into nature. I enjoy land. We're always calling interplanetary training, I think is actually bubble training, but I like interplanetary because bubbles do go that large, and it's one of the things I find most awesome about them. Well, I like how they can go so small.
It sounds like space travel to me. I mean,
it does. It does. He's basically talking about, I think, merging with various elements of nature and feeling like it's expanding him. I know he's talking, and I love that myself as well. But it also goes. I prefer bubble, say, or interplanetary. I like interplanetary as a possible descriptor of it. But bubble, kind of merging with bubbles, with your Shiny Baby, Tribe of Humanity, Gaia, and so forth, that goes out into the very large, but also down to into the subatomic, to the very small. I like that about it. You really feel one with everything. It may sound, I don't know, sort of weird, but like it feels very validating to know that you and subatomic, ways of doing things actually are part of one way. It feels you're not at conflict with them. I like that. I like not being at conflict with them. And then like when you go all the way out to like suns and stars throughout the galaxy, to know that as it expands out there, I'm not conflicting with that. I think people feel a sensation of feeling small in the cosmos, or overinflated of being too big. It's because they don't really feel like a oneness. Oneness takes away feeling too big or too small.
I totally agree with that.
You're just one.
You're just part of the wave. Things.
Yeah.
Part of everything.
So he says here, I enjoy land with trees, bodies of waters, wide trails, and sunshine. Definitely, nature's beautiful, and it's very inspiring. I walk slowly by paying attention to my spirit forms. Walking slowly is a thing with Naiji. We do a lot of activities where, and Naiji can get to where we can even do very extreme, intense physical activities this way, but where we can still keep a connection to our spirit forms. But as a general kind of thing, you'll notice that Naiji will maybe walk at a more stately pace, in order that they can bring their spirit forms in while walking. Because the faster you walk, you think of like a small little spectrum there. The faster you walk, it gets a little more V. The slower you walk, the more you can channel your Nai into the V. But it's more of that, obviously, if you're in familiar environments. Other things also can make it to where you can channel more Nai into a V activity, if you've done it a bunch of times and so on. Okay. Dancing over the land through streams of hip-hop beat waves, playing from my iPod in hand. That's basically his Nai going over his V. That's something we'll be talking a lot about Naiji Temple, is why it's so important, how we do it, and what you can do with it, is how you lay your Nai over your V. So definitely walking slowly, in a comfortable pace, in a conducive environment, and then pumping in music or something. Those are all things that will allow Nai V synonymy to happen. Eventually, I receive a vision of something, definitely. Your spirits always want to give you some kind of vision, so if you make yourself available, it will come. It is like my dancing was one end of the conversation, this vision is the other end. Very true, well said. And together this is one bar, note, sentence, word, page, whatever. True, it's one story. After the vision, I feel encouraged to respond with my own expression. Indeed, you'll get that to you, and you'll want to sound off, and that you want to allow that. And we mentioned before in Temple, and you want to go places, drive in your car, walk out in nature, be around your home when no one else is there, whatever, where you feel you can, after the visions happen, you can sound off about them. It's an important part of the process. I like expressing in dance and weaving freestyles in and out of the trip-hop beats until my part is complete. Yes, I know what he means. There's a sounding off with your voice, but I myself have always found the process intrinsically connected to pacing and to doing body movements. If you do debating or tennis or grappling, whatever, I find trained moves of you in apex moments will kind of flow through you. You'll start posturing. You'll start posturing in apex stances you have taken in various events you've done. So the training might affect how it's done, but the pacing and the need to kind of physically animate in a posture of spiritual surge, a spiritual surge. You need to kind of animate as that happens. That's always been part of it ever since I can remember sounding off. If I do enough in my head, I'll have to start talking. If I start talking enough, I'll have to start getting up and pacing. If I get up and pace enough, I'll have to start acting things out with my body. And as I do that, then there'll start to be a summoning of other people in the story for me to interact with. I think that will be universal for all Naiji, but the particulars of it may change a lot based on different activities they've done in their life. Debate, tennis, grappling, world travel. It doesn't matter whatever it is, but that will affect the variables. But that sequence, I think that's just going to be for Naiji. Make yourself open to thoughts. Thoughts come in. It makes you want to talk about them. As you talk about them and get excited, you want to get up and walk around. As you walk around, you'll start becoming a character. As you become a character, you'll summon in other characters to interact with. This is good stuff. Make sure you guys are making notes here as you come back.
Oh, yeah. I'm free to make notes.
Cause I'm just trying to sound all the quick little things here, and we can like get into it. If you guys have any thoughts, I want to turn the floor over to you guys. Let you guys have at it. After the vision, I feel okay, and then I pause, waiting passively and respectively for response. That's how it works. Thoughts come to you, you sound off, then they respond back, and then you respond back, and then you kind of like have to like go back to the world and do your life. But as you are, you're kind of like percolating. There's a constant back and forth between you and your unconscious genius, your muse. Because that's the wholeness of you. Often my visions will encourage me to train my physical body, and I can scan the environment, see impressions of myself doing certain maneuvers such as push-ups, yoga poses, kung fu moves, making them up. Playing swords with sticks and twirling staff-like branches, utilizing anything in the environment I come across that has a strong impression of it. Yes. And Naiji can take this in very particular ways at great length and become, world record holders, a lot of physical activities. But the real reason of this is to enact, so you can understand. So in the purest form, I would think of it as a artistic performer on stage. And you want to twirl a baton, you want to thump the beats, you want to stomp the floor. Not that you have to, whatever it would be good for you to actually release what is inside you. And so when it gets to the Nai to the V, there can be like a thumping. And so oftentimes things that have impressed upon you as being like that, you'll start doing it because you've trained them already or you've seen them. You'll start imitating them as well because it feels like, yeah. Like I've seen like war chant kind of like movement of the heads before, and it moved me. And I noticed that when I get pumped up, sometimes I'll start taking it on too. Some it's just that's innate to humans, and some it's that I've seen other humans doing that, and I was like, yes, that kind of energy, I'm going to infuse that into this ritual I'm doing. Just don't ever get possessed by being excellent at debate, excellent at tennis, excellent at grappling, or anything like that, because it's what it allows you to do that is what it's all about, not necessarily the craft itself. But yes, there's a physicality to it. When you peak from Nai to V, there will become a physicality to the enactment. But the key is how much spirit forming gets through. Other times, I would just receive a long vision or stream of visions that explains things to me. It's a cycle. You'll notice that you'll get visions where you kind of sit in a stupor, just eating your cereal or whatever, and you're just getting deep thoughts like that. And then over time, maybe weeks or months, they'll start changing. They'll start changing to where you start talking about it to yourself. And then you start getting worked up, and you start walking around. You don't know why. It usually means you need some kind of worldly way to release the energy, to write an email. You have to do something artistic. You have to produce something at work. You have to go break a record, whatever it is. So it goes in cycles. I mean, there is some kind of like always like unexpected quality to it as an IG, but you can track it to some degree. If you're very in tune to your spirituality and what you're doing with it in your daily life, you can start tracking the rhythm of things. Let's see. For example, I learned today to perceive music in the environment as something really powerful as a determined constant framework nucleus around which beings, electrons, circle around. Very true. Any kind of energetic manifestation is going to have an influence on the energy around it. The more concentrated it is, the more complex it is, the more purposeful it is, the greater the influence. And so music is going to have a great influence because it's affecting things in a kinesthetic way, but there's also the very complex patterns it's creating that influence people on much more deep and profound ways. a yang to the yin. The rewards of this type, we're almost done here. The rewards of this type of play are immense. I feel energized throughout my entire day, and the good feelings culminate in my dreams as well. What this is actually letting your Nai come through and utilizing it. Most people in general, but particularly Naiji, the most so, are metaphysically constipated. So to actually bring in your Nai, let it take you over and level you up to fuel you to feel good and sure about yourself, to go into your other activities in the world, that's the way you're supposed to be peaking. So what you're getting is, you're getting a feeling of, peaking. And there's nothing like it. Nothing like it at all. I'm seeking to get a way better at recognizing these spirit forms. If I could properly mode read and had a bustling, well, I think virtual village to call upon, that will improve it, that's true. Will these spirit forms evoke the personalities of the modus and become interactable on that level? Yes. There's a lot to that. That's a very complex conversation, but in simplest terms, yes. Spirit forms will start as amorphous energies that have some kind of contextual influence, vague, hard to define or really put your finger on anyway, but then they'll build. And as they build, they'll build into some sort of principles that you can expect in some way. And these principles evolve into a personality, a personification. And over time, you can interact with it, and you can become friendly with it. You can name it. It can have multiple names, and these names can increase. Like Nexi, that's like her umpteenth name. And originally, I didn't even name her. She was just a creature. Before she was a creature, she was just a feeling, and so on and so forth. Anyway, thanks for reading. All responses are cherished and welcome. All right, team, I turn it over to you. Have at it.
All right. First of all, I really relate to the noises, like reacting to like negatively to the noises through the walls and stuff. Like at my dorm, like oftentimes, people will be like I'll hear like someone like walking by my door or whatever, to their room, and they're talking really loudly. And sometimes they just stand by the door and have like a long conversation. I feel like opening the door and just yelling at them, telling them to shut up or something. But it's like I know I wouldn't do that. It's just like I kind of feel compelled to almost.
Exactly. I mean, literally, I couldn't have. I just literally. I mean, right outside my door. It's probably happening right now. I had to get noise canceling headphones.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, just know, whoever made those, thank you so much.
It was an IG.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure.
Oh, wow. What did Naiji do for headphones?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Leave.
Just go to like a forest.
People, I don't know.
I don't know. I have like earbuds that go in my ear.
Myself, but I mean, just the idea of them, I think, is really great. It's so immersive.
I don't know if mine are completely noise canceling. Like they go pretty far in my ear, but I'm not sure. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it still helps, even if they're not. I highly recommend getting headphones of some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, earbuds, they can sort of act like ear, like those things that you put in your ear to like make so you don't hear anything else. They can act like
earplugs.
that. Earplugs, yeah. Earbuds are like earplugs in a way.
Yep.
You don't listen to what you don't want to listen to, and you do listen to whatever it is that you do want to listen to.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the great things about it.
That definitely helps. I think next year I'll make sure I have earplugs and earbuds that cancel noise.
Definitely do it. But at least you're almost done.
Yeah, I'm almost done with this year. Yeah, it's true. It's crazy. I have no like we actually get like 4 months off. It's insane.
Awesome.
So like I don't know.
All right.
It'd be cool to have like soundproofing in your house so that you don't like hear anything that you don't.
Yeah, I would like that. I would like that because it happens at home, not as much, but it does.
I guess you could like put lead in your walls and stuff.
Like
I don't know.
thick, 10 feet thick like walls that just like, you can hear anything.
And like doors that seal.
Yeah, just have like a steel door and like lead walls and stuff, and
Like in science fiction, how like doors like kind of open and just like shut in on themselves. I don't know how to describe it.
it's just like there aren't any windows at all. It's just like completely dark.
Yeah.
How often do you guys?
Go ahead, Glenn.
I was just gonna ask, how often do you have people usually like come into your space when like unannounced and stuff like that? I was wondering, like Ben and Mitchell, if, or even if
You mean like my room?
Yeah, in your room, or
So
just,
do you mean like at my dorm or my house?
Well, yeah, I mean either one really. I mean, just
Okay, well, my
just
dorm,
experience.
no one ever comes in my room. I wouldn't let them. I lock the door. But there are, yeah, just like exactly as Ben described, there are people outside of my hall, and they're loud. They're annoying. But I hope they don't. Well, I hope they do hear this. No, I'm just kidding. They won't, I'm sure. But at my house, like on the one hand, there's less ambient noise, but sometimes, you know, my parents will come in my room to tell me things unannounced and stuff like that, and that annoys me to no end, especially if I'm thinking about something. I like people to kind of like make appointments with me, like send me a text if you want to talk to me. Don't just walk in my room.
Yeah.
I cannot. Like my first reaction, like Coach says, I can modulate it, but my first reaction is just anger when that happens.
It's just,
like that's the first thing that comes on. I just want to be angry at them. But,
What the? It's usually what the ... and how dare you ... Then after that, usually it's like, okay, that's too extreme. You know what I mean? You start trying to pull yourself in, but
Yeah, your side kind of comes in. It's like, you know.
it's what it is.
Yeah.
And then this is what happens to me sometimes. Like someone will come in and then they'll leave, but then they'll leave the door open.
oh,
I know what you mean. Oh, I know what you
So
mean.
annoying. Oh my god.
And then I have to get up and I have to shut the door.
I know.
It's like if you're gonna open my bubble, you should also restore my bubble's integrity.
At least you can slam the door on them.
That's true. That's true. You can.
Protect your loved ones.
I try not to do that. That's kind of a bit.
I know
Yeah.
what you mean.
Just like a hypothetical
Okay,
scenario.
I want to make sure that this is good discussion here. I think it was helpful, but I do make sure we are staying on Chian's case here. So I'm going to throw out some questions to you all and see what your thoughts are. He was asking about
I have some other thoughts.
doing particular things like a key or a token which will unlock a spirit for further interaction, or actually all of it. He was talking about basically how to properly greet spirits. Do you guys experiences with that, or you talk about what you might do that brings certain kind of spirit forms or experiences up? I think it's something that Sheehan is interested in.
How to like summon certain spirit form energies?
Well, basically he's saying
Let me see what
he's kind of putting forward a premise here, and he wants to get our feedback on. He's saying basically a premise 3. One, that you have to properly greet them. Because it demonstrates you're aware of them, then it demonstrates that you know what the spirit likes, and it demonstrates that you want to have an ongoing dialogue.
Yeah, I guess something that I experienced, like, you're talking a lot about how Naiji, when we get worked up about ideas, we want to start, like, moving around and stuff like that. You have to, like, when you actually, it's vague, but I mean, when you actually engage in that in some way, I feel like that is actually a good way to greet the spirit form. Like, you're sort of letting those energies come out, and it gets your energies going, and you can start getting insights. It's kind of like it's like a ritual that your spirit wants you to do for you. It's complicated, but and it depends obviously a lot, but that's definitely something that I experienced for sure.
I was curious. I wanted to ask a little bit about that. When we're talking about spirits, it can apply to basically anything, right? Because I tend to think of it sort of like in terms of like mojo reading or like any kind of activity or something. Like I consider that a spirit, and I like to sort of think of myself as, in order to better understand that spirit, I need to learn how it works and learn how to do it better in that kind of a way. Is that sort of like similar?
That's a very good point, Glenn. He talks a bit about the elevator spirit forms, but there's all kinds of spirit forms. There's a spirit form of the ritual itself. For example, the ritual of fear, you have your Daryu there that you can personify with, but the ritual of fear itself also is spirit. that must be accounted
But like
for.
your individual demons are spirits in their
They
own
are.
way, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And so you have to account for all of them, and because that's part of the challenge that one's dealing with. So
Demons you have to like banish.
Yeah, and,
So-
and that's kind of cool because like then the demons are like below the Daryu. It's kind of like a stratification.
they are. And,
So
and-
like
and-
your Daryu kind of leads to demon hordes and stuff. I don't know.
It's true, but it puts them in line. It's sort of your Daryu is in charge of actually taking the more troubled aspects of yourself and converting them into productive harmony.
Oh
And
yes.
those that are unwilling or unready to do that conversion, it keeps them in line. It keeps them out of the way. It keeps them locked down as need be. The jail warden, as it were.
Yeah, it's like subconscious.
Right,
Like Dario,
yes.
I remember you saying like it's sort of like it has a lot of stuff in there that you're not really ready to consciously confront. Like
Right.
your apparatus isn't really up for that yet.
Definitely. He's talking here about the way you come to them. It is true that I found for myself that the rituals are the easiest way to do it. For example, if I want to summon my Daryu, if I think about anything that I find confusing or scary or angering, or that I need to deal with, then that tends to bring it right there.
Yeah.
For my other, if I bring forward Nishai that I find desirable, not just in a physical way, but as far as like I'd like to have conversations with them. I'd like them to admire me. I'd like to spend time in their company. Things like that. It tends to immediately bring my other up strongly. So I know that much for sure. I'm sorry, I veered off a bit from what you said, Glenn, but I think I talked about. I agree with what you're saying. There is a spirit form to the rituals themselves.
Oh, and there's another thing too with like the Fumasta, like past like maybe spiritual poses or something that you've done. Sometimes you have to like kind of go back into that and sort of you can like kind of relive that, and it makes you feel really good and masterful.
Right. Like a moment that you really just like felt really proud of. Like I did
Yeah.
something really cool there, and then it's like something that you
Yeah.
hold on to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can also have things like like moments where you felt really close to your other. You can remember those and bring those to mind.
Yeah, it applies to every spirit form. Fumasta usually it's something you'll have to do with like mastery. I can imagine like like artists craft these statues in certain poses and stuff like that, and you kind of, in your own way, you're sort of kind of crafting yourself in like those
That's
poses,
true.
like a triumphal. I don't know anything.
Agreed. Let's see. He's talking also here about when acting out, the need to like do various like releases for the energy, like twirling a staff or whatever kung fu moves. Do you guys have any experiences with that, where just the kind of like moving of the body in a certain way feels good? For example, like you see Naiji on stage a lot. They do some unusual gyrations.
Mhm.
They combine like street swagger, kung fu, wizards. I mean, there's a whole bunch of shit all happening at once there, and it seems to make them feel good, and the audience often finds it hypnotic. So I don't know, it's an interesting kind of topic. I know myself that when I get worked up, I tend to just sort of certain postures, often from cultures I have no relationship to at all.
Your spirits will just take it, and they're like, "This is cool," Try it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I remember doing that like a lot when I was younger. When I was like, I haven't done as much because I don't know. But I used to spend a lot of time in like my basement, in my house, so I could actually do like kind of move around a lot and dance around a lot. I had a lot of space, so
Every Aishi should have that in their life. As an Aishi, if you don't currently have that, always note that that's a factor. You can do that for a while, but note that that's there because that's something that normally you get constant like access to your source power on. So if you don't have it, you're operating in a depowered state.
Because,
that's
like,
so true.
Because, like, I mean, I can still, pace around upstairs and sometimes dance a little bit, but I can't. I'm limited because I don't want to make too much noise because it like shakes the floor and stuff. So.
My parents tell me that all the time.
I know.
And they can actually hear me pace a little bit if they listen.
As an IG, if you even think it's remotely possible someone can hear you, every degree of that reduces how much you can vision. It just
I agree with that.
That's true.
It does. It's annoying.
That's like really huge. Like I need to like figure out like some new tactics.
I can't wait till I
need to think about that more.
live by myself, but that'll be somewhat soon. I mean, I'm a junior in college.
Yeah, oh, cool, nice.
But it's important to keep in mind that you can always vision. You can always find a way to your spirits. It just will take more exertion of your spirit to find the way to it and to walk towards it, given the environment. Conducive environments, spirits kind of find you. As the modifiers get more challenging, you have to do more effort. You have to kind of like pierce through the static and get to the spirits. Which is why when you have the fortunate opportunity to be where you can pace and get good connection to your spirits, remember that. Remember the feeling, remember the scenarios, motifs that were happening, and you can then consciously summon those to your mind when you're in an inclement environment, and when you do that actively, it can summon a spirit, even when the environment is giving you a lot of distortion. But you'll have to be more like proactive and aware of what you're doing and concentrate your efforts. But I don't believe there's ever an environment that supersedes humans' ability to spirit form. Humans are amazing. And Naiji, with our spirit form connection, I mean, there's all kinds of stories of us having like arrows sticking out of like 100 parts of our body, and yet we're still able to spirit form. So I don't believe there's any way that the environment ever trumps spirit.
You can like sneak it in some way.
There's always a way, because your spirits, one, they're one with you, and they want to talk to you. So if you reach out, they're there. But you have to make an effort. You have to reach out and make. And I find too, like the moving the body. There's the enactment of the spirit, such as like being passionate or masterful or whatever. But also, I find just the V of it. I think it's because I feel very vulnerable and exposed and raw in that way. My spirits really like that offering. Like if they're giving me information and I'm alone, I get up and I walk around. It's probably what Chin was talking about, and I start sounding off. I get pumped up. My spirits are pleased that the wisdom of the vision they gave me caused me to sound off, caused me to start spinning around or walking faster or moving in kind of like a pumped up, like I'm going to take on the world way. They like that. They feel like it's saying, he must really mean it, because he didn't just, in his head go, yes, I agree. He spoke it out loud. And then he didn't just speak it out loud, he actually started to enact it. And that lets you know, if you keep going, your spirits will be most happy with you if you take it all the way out into your full life and public view of the world. That's the most validating. But every step you take where you're taking it from just inside your own psyche outward, I think the spirits are like, good job. It takes effort to help realize those things, and so I think it's worthy to do so. Your spirits, I think, recognize them.
I feel like I want to dig a cave or something.
Dig a cave, oh yes. By the way, Batman, the Batcave is so awesome, and this week they showed I think he just discovers the Batcave.
Oh wow.
Next week he's going to be going in the Batcave, and I think it's like a metaphor of like, for Ni Alpha. Oh, a cave. A cave, do all your Ni Alpha stuff in it.
Yeah. It's the best thing ever.
Because he does. He has like this cave where he has all his equipment, and he can totally have these satellite relays to the whole world and the city, but no one knows about him. He sees the world doesn't see him. It's like perfect. And then he leaves the Batcave, and all Ni Alpha work this way. He kind of like goes into the world from out of the Batcave without the world really being able to see him do it. Kind of like when a jaguar leaves its tree, it kind of waits till the rest of the jungle is not noticing, and kind of just slips down from the tree and starts slinking forward. And that way you can engage the world on your own time and your own terms.
It's also like the nighttime preference to a degree.
It is. It is. And the nighttime preference, I think, is a part of the overall.
Related to it. Yeah.
You kind of like do it when the rest of the world's not paying attention and you are at your most attentive.
Yeah.
Because think at nighttime, the world's like is not giving its least amount of distraction, and then your spirit's in you, man. There's like nothing stopping that connection there. In fact, sometimes it can be even a bit frightening, but I think it's a sign of the power.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like up late at night as an IG, you know, like midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., those kinds of things.
It's energizing to be like outside at night, but it's a little scary. Yeah.
Exactly. It's energizing and also like, whoa, it's pretty gnarly how close your spirits are talking. They talk right to your face when there's no distraction. Which is good.
It's like I feel like a lot of like spiritual energy summoned within me. Like when I just look at the night sky, like it just I feel
that's why
like
people,
there's something in like the Naiji psyche that just like makes that like it's just like an on switch for your spirits.
Yeah, the
I
night
think
sky
you
is
do
just
that.
such a beautiful
I like
thing.
that you mentioned that, Ben, because yes, there's the nighttime, which I think is the off hours for most people. It also cloaks things in an ambient atmosphere that's conducive for imagination. But then the night sky, as compared to the day sky highlights what? The sun, our solar system. But the night sky highlights all the stars that we can
The
see.
universe that we can.
It's a much more expansive way of looking at things. That's neat.
Yuck light pollution, but
Is that?
I said yuck light pollution, but
Yeah.
technology's nice though, too.
But as far as like the Naiji responding to those off hours, there's a multitude of factors that make that empowering. Oh, I think we kind of talked on a couple of different things of him. Maybe the last one we'll talk on, we move on to something else, is just he was asking about specifically increasing his virtual village and how it affects his spirit forming. I'll just say myself, I know that I've been kind of mojoing my whole life, and the process has helped me spirit form better. And specifically in the last, say, 10 years, as I formalized what, say, Nijai are, my connection to Nexi has gotten better. And as I've corrected misreads I've had of Nizai, Vijay, or whatever, it's made the correction better. She really approves that I'm really trying to understand the essence of her. And I get rewarded by closer contact, intimacy, and rewards as far as wisdom and confidence, and that I'm doing a good job, a validation of that, the more I mojo read. Because mojo reading makes you see natural law more truthfully. If you're seeing natural law more truthfully, then you're automatically seeing your spirits more truthfully. Can't help it. Because you're challenged to see men and women more truthfully. You're challenged to see directive and adapters more truthfully. Just fundamental truths about the way humans work and nature works. As you're doing that right, then spirit forms, which are part of that, you'll understand them better. And anytime you look at your higher spirits and you look at them with more truthful understanding, you're doing it more correctly.
I think it also helps to sort of look at specific people of a certain mojo that you find admirable, and that can sort of like get you a better connection with that mojo. Like there's certain Jinai or certain Nai-Z that I kind of like, and when I think about them, like that's like a really cool Nai-Z, like Patrick Stewart or something, I don't know. And it's just like it's cool to think about, like and then you get an understanding of your own like a Nai-Z in your psyche, in your virtual village in that way. You can get like a better connection with them through that person who kind of is really doing a great job of being a great version of their own mojo.
Well, I think you're touching on there, Glenn, is a part of what he's asking is definitely, I think you expand yourself. Because humans, you have to use effort to expand beyond what you know. But if you find someone who's admirable that's not exactly of your story, it does expand you to, like, what does it mean to be heroic? And when you expand that understanding, your spirits can't help but be happy for that, and they can't help but also have an easier time communicating with you, because that's more truthful. If you know that Patrick Stewart's is a Nai-Z, which is similar to you but not the same thing, it's super admirable in these various ways, and it's all those things are true, and you're becoming more comfortable with truth. You're learning to fall in love with truth. I think your spirit's gotta like that when you're actually willfully taking on more truth. Even all Mazu, Daryu, other Fumasta, the Shiny Bit, when you willfully are like, I want more truth, that's going to up your relationship with all the spirit forms. And the more that truth is related to that spirit form, it increases, it specifically. But in general, just more truth. Spirit forms are the truth you can't hold. So the more truth you hold, that means the more you're able to talk with them at a higher level.
That's an interesting way of putting it.
Do you guys have anything you want to add to that before we move on to multirational?
I guess something that just sort of interests me about something you said, I have some thoughts on it, is that you were talking about how like a part about like Naiji walking slowly, sort of overlay Nai on their V. I mean, that's, I'm sure, one way of doing it. I mean, I guess so walking slowly or in like a stately, sort of purposeful way is probably one way of doing that. But I'm interested in how that relates to maybe more fast movement. So like for tennis, for example, like when you get really into it, I'm sure there's also a lot of Nai and V synamnia for an IG, but you're moving really fast.
Yes.
So how does that kind of process?
That's about fetishing. So basically, the more Naiji fetishes on a V activity, they can take the natural way we are, which is if you do like an easy activity, walking slowly, our Nai will naturally start to overlap the V. If we get to an activity that we know well, such as cooking. You're cooking a certain dish you've made many times before, you know how to slice the garlic and so forth, yada, yada, yada. As you do it, the Nai will filter in all the spaces. You don't need to actively pay attention to what your hands do.
That is exactly how I feel. I feel like it's effortless when I'm playing really well. That applies both to Zai and V, I think, to a large degree, too.
Oh, yes.
Like Zai stuff as well. Like the
Zai, I think, getting more on where it feels like it has the flow of something, it relaxes the V. The V can flow thoughtlessly.
Mm-hmm. Like I'm just getting used to a certain Zai activity for the first time. It's kind of slow. I really have to like ponder it, but then eventually it just gets to the point where it's just effortless. It just kind of rolls off my tongue or whatever else.
Totally.
And V as well.
Yeah, it becomes more and more autopilot state.
Autopilot state. Yeah, that's
yeah.
a good way of putting it.
Yeah, the more autopilot state you can make any activities in IG, whatever space that creates, the Nai will just fill it always. The Nai is waiting, doing stuff. You guys know this. If you stay on the line and there's nothing to actively occupy you, in comes the Nai visioning.
Yeah.
If you're talking in conversation with someone, you start getting bored, in comes the Nai visioning. So if there's any space in what you're doing, the activity, the Nai is looking to come in. So the more comfortable and masterful you get at a physical activity, that's going to create comfort zones. And in that comfort zone, the Nai is going to pipeline.
And it's weird, like Naiji, so like we're hunters, and so like you would think with hunters, like you would like, really bug out your V and get like really paid. But I feel like when Naiji are actually in the moment of when they're hunting something, it's the opposite. You've said this before. We actually kind of go in. We're not really even looking out.
It's like a kinetic trance state.
Yeah.
Your body's doing stuff masterfully, but like inside, you're
hardly paying attention to really outside. It's just
weird.
Yeah, the world around you sort of gives you cues, but inside you're kind of like you have this what's the word, console or something inside your mind.
Your console, your simulator is kind of playing everything at once, and you're doing it in there, and it just translates into your body. But you have to get to that point to where you're masterful enough to actually do that in your simulator.
It's amazing when it happens, but it starts. That's why I mentioned slow walking. It's a state of mind Naiji always have anytime they do a comfortable physical activity. But then as you train something, what Naiji consider to be a comfortable physical activity can get quite extreme.
Definitely.
But the reason why it works that way is because basically the urge is always there. That Nai is always looking to come in anytime you can kind of autopilot the V. Or G too. If you can autopilot the G or V, the Nai will just want to kind of pump in through all those spaces.
Mm-hmm. Very much so.
Good stuff. Anything else?
I guess that's it for me.
That was good. Thank you for that. Okay. I will move on then to multi-rational. And I want to give time for Glenn's questions, so we'll try to do multi-rationals pretty quickly. Give kind of quick comments.
That's okay, Coach. We don't necessarily need to go too quickly on the multi-rational question. I'm not 100% sure if maybe we can do this in another session, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, whatever's coming. So we'll go through multi-rationals here, just kind of whatever, and then Glenn, you can let us know what you want to do at the end there. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Okay, cool. Okay, this is for multi-rational. Hi, Coach Ben and Mitchell, and I'm sure he meant Glenn as well. First of all, I would like to thank you.
Well, I think he wasn't there. That's why.
He may not have been there. Yeah.
I see. Thank you. And I also apologize for this distraction. Okay, it's not a distraction, multi-rational. As long as you're asking questions that are meaningful and sincere, then it opens up good dialogue. So it's not a distraction. My questions truly do not deserve the attention that you give it. That's not true. The questions are worthy. And I do not expect consider my negative track record. We talked about your negative track record and that the way to move forward, and you're doing that. So as long as you're doing that, then we're good to go. The past track.
I wouldn't worry about your track record so much. Like if you're,
right,
if you're past that, I don't really care what your track record is. If you're
well, it matters as far as actually being able to come to the table. And there was a period of time where multi-rational was not at the point where he could come to the table. Fellow secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he's actually learned from that, has actually done what he's supposed to from that,
exactly.
I'm not going to like look back at his track record, look at him as a lower person if he's actually learned from it properly.
Agreed. Agreed. No, absolutely. What Ben said. So that's in the past. So what matters now is, are you able to come to the table? If you're able to come to the table, then any question that stimulates good discussion is worthy. You are heroes moving forward. Yes, we are. Thank you for noting that. I'm just a very curious, confused fan. No, you're a chosen one. You're a gifted hero of your peak pathway, and you're just trying to come to terms with that. So we'll try to help you the best we can. The distance of our integrities are far too great. Not if we can have a dialogue, and we're having a dialogue right now. Again, I'm really sorry. Well, we appreciate that, and we're moving forward. So keep going. You're doing well. The only thing worse than actually getting hit by something bad, kind of like put down by demons or that you may have or the world puts on you, is to stay there. So every moment you have a choice to stay where you are, move forward. So you're moving forward, and that's admirable. So keep doing that. And if you fall off the wagon again, just get back on. Keep going. That's all you choose. Get up, get back on the trail, and keep going. I feel like I have a responsibility to give something in return. No, Naiji Temple is here to give out information freely. If we don't feel something is worthy of discussion, we won't discuss it. But if it is worthy of discussion, then it's worthy of its own sake, regardless of who brought it forward, and we'll discuss it on its merits. But I cannot. I am too weak and dishonest. I think you're just in a bad state right now. And I think you should keep moving forward and not really worry about trying to describe oneself. I find that when I'm in the fit of a negative side of my Daryu, that trying to describe myself is not very helpful. I prefer to define myself as I have an ability to move forward in some way as a hero, even if it's very, very small. And if I have that, I'm going to use it. And I just keep doing that. And from there, I build. You build from there. When you're in those low moments in your life, is there something good you can do? Of course there is. There always is. Find what it is and do that little thing. That little thing will build, give you strength, and you go from there. Okay, so he's talking about change flow. He's curious about change flow. We'll come back to that, guys. Note that in your pads there. He's not really sure what change flow is. I'll let you guys define that for him.
Ah. Yeah, I remember we mentioned that.
Let's see. He's talking about human math and Podlair. Indeed, there are far too many implications. So I thought about the idea of Podlair economics before, creating an entire economic model of Podlair axioms. That's an interesting point. Is talking about the universal coin. The universal coin of energy, particularly in peak pathways producing something. Let's call it the peak pathways and economics. That's a nice topic to talk about. Recent history, okay. Yeah, I keep forgetting the ultimate big picture of things. I think I have this bias for recent events or maybe familiarity bias because more tangible to me. Everyone has that. It's something that's been worked on. It's why mode reading is so important, to put you in connection with a universal phenomenon species-wide and throughout the entire history of humans. Back before we were humans, we were just hominids. Because otherwise, civilization, civilization is important, and it is data, but it needs to be taken in the context of all the data of what humans are. And Mojo is all-pervasive and throughout our history, and everything else should be understood within that context. Otherwise, you'll put war makes a context, commerce makes a context, relationships make the context, when those are actually subdivisions of the way humans actually are built. Statehood. Okay. Tennis. He's saying here that the tennis analogy was a good one, but it's a concept difficult to conceive. Mitchell, do you remember what the tennis thing was?
You made a point, Coach, where you were talking about how one of the most important powers of Nye is prediction, and how people in things like grappling or tennis or even debate, a concept that people have a tough time grasping is that when they make a mistake in something, they often think that it was the moment that the mistake happened, but actually it was a few moves before that. And so that will happen in grappling, like you move a certain way. It can happen in tennis. You know, when someone puts away a ball for a winner, I mean, that's where you lost the point literally, but that's not really where you lost the point. You lost the point maybe that set up that shot. Or something like that.
Definitely.
Or in debate, you may say something if there are certain rules in the debate, at least, and that someone else can use against you later. I think that's a point that Ben made.
Yeah.
I see.
The premise, yeah.
Now here it says there are too many variables to take note of. Yes, but I don't think I agree with the tone in which he's stating that. There are never too many variables to try to take note of. That's a critical principle of being a heroic pioneer. Because then you give up. You're like, I can't get all of the stuff that the unknown's throwing at me, so I'll just settle for some sort of belief system that can put my mind at ease. You need to understand that you'll always be a bit ill at ease that you have to learn something new, but that practice puts you in a superior position, puts you in the superior trajectory of how to live your life. Sometimes I think multi-rational, as part of being overly focused on the direct manifestations of statehood or people power or literal power, military economics, is the concept that I think that you don't control what you do, that you should give up. It's a bit of a form of faux zen. There's a defeatism to that way of thinking. Like, now I can misread that. If multi-rational was to follow up, I would gladly hear that. But the statement here, considering the other things you've heard so far and how he's worded them, this comment, there are too many variables to take note of. This is out of the sentence of great analogy, but still a very difficult concept to conceive. Am I wrong here? Difficult concept to concede. There are too many variables. No. That's like saying a double-A takedown is a difficult maneuver to get your head around. Therefore, there are too many variables to make it what? Possible? No, there aren't. You can actually master enough variables to do it masterfully. Will you ever understand all the variables? No. Will you ever master all the variables? No. but you can make a noble effort, and it'll be rewarding. And so defeatism, I don't think, is ever validated by natural law. Natural law, if you study all of it in the suns all the way to apes and whatnot, it just does not reward defeatism. Not when it's giving you the gifts and the mechanisms to move forward. It validates you using them, and using them as best you can, learning from your mistakes, and then using them better.
Yeah.
This one he's talked here is about, I told him to do not accept the givens that are given to you. He's wondering if the fact that he sometimes is susceptible to that, I'm curious what you guys' thoughts on this are as well, so please note this down. He's wondering if this is a product of weak Nai, or Ji, or Zai, or what that might make him susceptible.
Susceptible what exactly? Sorry.
Accepting givens as presented by the media, or like the way history of the last 10,000 years presents things, accepting those givens. He's wondering what may be making him susceptible to that. And also, like, sensationalistic expressions of power, military power, economic power, and so forth. Why he's an IG, he's wondering why he's susceptible. Because Niger normally, compared to most of the tribe of humanity, we're the most impervious to that. He's wondering why he is lacking in imperviousness, perhaps to improve it. He's also wondering if maybe it's because of his Spartan childhood, of being only conditioned to reply with "yes, sir." Of course, that's a rather.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is. I mean, you could describe it in terms of powers, but it's more so just like how you were developed, how you were conditioned, and of course your powers are conditioned with that. But it's like it's mostly like because anyone is like susceptible to that stuff. Like Naiji tend to be the least susceptible, but like if you were like raised into like a really strict family, that's gonna have like a huge influence over you, regardless of what mojo you are. So
just all your idiosyncrasies of behavior and language, and it's all very much affected by nurture.
But perhaps then he wants maybe how his powers would relate to that as far as resisting. Do you have any idea?
You could say it's like a weakness of Nai because, like you haven't been able to detach from toxicity and the more like the stupid of the environment. And I guess being obsessed with... Is he describing being obsessed with military power and...
No, I don't think obsessed. I think perhaps a word would be distracted.
Distracted.
Like it kind of like makes an impression on him, even though he wishes it didn't. Not just military, but kind of like statehoods, financial power, things of that nature. Kind of like either overt displays of success, dominance, control, things of that nature. Like putting that into a larger context, I think he's having difficulty with.
Like. Interesting, because I can sometimes get interested in like politics and things like that simply because they have a large influence on the world.
That's very fascinating.
So, so that can be like a really good case to get into.
Right. So it's not exact. So it's not wrong to a degree. I think he's concerned about because we were saying that some of the way he asks questions or his line of inquiry kind of shows that perhaps it has an inordinate influence on him. And I think he's wondering about how to find a healthy level of interest.
Because I think, I mean, we've talked about before how, like, I guess having a lot of Zai development can cause you to be interested in cases that are more related to the Zez channel. And Z, of course, is, related to politics and statehoods and hierarchies and such. So that could be somewhat related. I'm not sure if that's more so what we want to get at here as far as, like, giving advice, but...
Yeah. For myself... things that have helped me with that have been, there's a lot to it, but kind of three major ones. One is, I mentioned before, and today, noting phenomenon that span beyond the time frame of human civilization, helps with human civilization in a proper context when you can understand things from a geological time scale. from a mojo time scale, things like that. You know what I mean?
Cosmic.
Cosmic. It gives it its proper context. Another thing that helps give context is higher spirits. You guys know, for me, a lot of times I go on camera, I do things that aren't comfortable for me, but it's because Nexi wants it. And so your higher spirits give you a higher level of validation, and it helps put the validation the world's offering in its proper context. A lot of times the world is giving you not very good validation, but making you feel like you're getting like a good deal, at least the best you can take. You talk to your higher spirits, they give you other validations, and that gives you something to weigh against what the world's offering, which is really important. And then finally is having good friends. Like I have you here, I have Shailene and Demas, for example, and also Infinity Starglow, is having people that you really value and respect and agree on things with as far as being like-minded. It helps put the conversations you're having with other people in a context. If you don't have something to contextualize, which the conversations you're having with your parents, your siblings, your coworkers, then it will really affect your numbers, your way of evaluating things in a way that's incorrect, because your spirits have a correct valuation. And then what your other relationships the worlds have to say, that's important, but it has something to balance it with, to ping it off of. You always need something to ping off of to give. We mentioned emoji reading. You need to cross-contextualize to give the two elements that are being cross-contextualized their true meaning. Trying to define any singular element of vacuum is just difficult to the point of thinking, I think you can't do it. I think the most complex concepts, you must have a contrasting element to explain the element you're defining.
Yeah, there's always this dialogue, and no matter what you're doing, between the one and the all, pretty much. The one of what you're doing, and then the all that it's connected to. And the all that it's connected to gives it its context and contributes so much to how it's defined that to even talk about one thing, statehood, whatever, you can focus on any particular thing, anything you want, but there's always more that it's connected to that you just can't even understand it without.
For sure.
Yeah. This context, it gives that.
What else do these have here? Anything else?
It's like in philosophy of language, for example.
You said you want to know about change flow?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, good point. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah. I actually wrote that down. That's how I know it.
No, because I can tell you something. Having interacted with Naiji in the past, one thing you want to do as a practice, let me give you advice on this, is bring a pad and writing implement, because you'll there's going to be a lot of monologuing back and forth.
And the Vi just can't hold.
You can't hold it, and so the way to be honorable while still actually being fulfilled yourself is to write down things you want to talk about, and then when it's your time to monologue less, you just hit off as many things as you can. And it keeps an ongoing thing of, like, everyone has a notepad, a bunch of talking points to talk about, and so it's easy and friendly and smooth.
And let me tell you, not even just that. When I'm alone, one thing I cannot recommend enough, even when I'm just monologuing to myself and my spirits, I'm always writing things down.
Yes, you have to,
because you're just not gonna remember, and then you'll lose it.
Yep.
Very important insights you could get.
Kind of like after you wake up, like and you had like a dream, like you're gonna forget it like pretty quickly. You have to write that shit down.
Paradigm case of that.
Yeah.
Dreams, they don't hold in your vibe for some reason. It's just.
Yeah.
But if you can hold on to like a key word or key phrase, it's amazing when you reference that what it can unlock.
Nye is great at that. Nye is great at taking a key word or a concept and just constellating into this. I guess just the word constellating it.
Yeah, it's just that constellation needs that focal point. Focal.
They can make them really good speakers because, like, if they have a note card, like that's all they need. Like,
yeah.
They can give a full-blown, like, 10-minute presentation or something.
Yeah, so
even
much
longer than
that,
that, you know.
If we don't know why we're there,
No, then you just lose everything. It's like gone.
Yeah.
You're just, what do I do? Oh my god. It's terrible.
Okay, so Glenn, did you want to discuss your thing next time?
Sure, I mean, that's fine.
Does that work? I totally want to give time to it if you want to do that.
No, I think next time it's fine.
Okay.
It's funny we're talking about like memory buy stuff because I'm having a hard time trying to.
You're doing that
remember
right now. You want to like be more prepared and like have.
Okay.
Yeah. I feel totally unprepared to even want to get into this.
No problem at all. No problem. I want to be good for you. So whenever you want to do that, that's great. So maybe next time or whenever. And then we have like 25 minutes left here. So
One thing though, I don't think we got to the change flow thing.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. We'll devote the rest of the time here to change flow and maybe whatever else multi-rational has. So how about who wants to take a crack at kind of like describing change flow for multi-rational?
I was thinking maybe I could describe it a little bit.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, basically, change flow has to do with like the NES and the VES channels, and there's the NES alpha, which is like the first wave. Then there's the NES tandem mojos, the like Gini, Zini, Xeni, and Geni. They're the second wave. The third wave would be all the mojos that have the NES power as their offside, so the Ji-V, the G-Vi, the Z-Vi, and the Xi-V. And then the last one would be the fourth wave, and that's all the Vi alpha and the V alpha, Vi Z, Vi G, V Xi, and V Xi. So I mean, that's kind of just like the math of it. As far as like,
does anyone want to chime in on like what kind of like those various waves do?
So
Yeah.
well, I know the NES Alpha find all the new stuff. So like that, they're
Right,
really the first ones to find things. It is you know
That's a
very general. I mean
very-
like you know Vi Z could discover something that no one's ever discovered before. I mean because they haven't
That's an important point.
But
That's an important point that the
so anyone could do that.
Right.
It's just that they're
There's
better
the
suited for.
wave, and then there's the mojos that are mojo associated, but any mojo can actually operate very successfully in any wave.
Yeah, it's just like the mojos that tend to be more better suited for that wave. But yeah, I mean there is the process of like you have an idea and then you kind of work it a little bit within the discernment channel. I don't really know about the finer nuances of it, but I know you're basically working the NES into the literal.
Basically going from original abstraction or conception into a prototype.
Yeah.
Yeah,
NES Alpha, right? And
Yeah.
then there was like, and then you go with the second wave. I remember this. You had like a term for it, Coach. You went prototype to blueprint. Exactly. I don't.
Actually, blueprint to prototype.
Oh, blueprint. Really?
That makes sense.
I guess that does
Yes,
make sense.
because a blueprint
Blueprints, yeah, more like what you would do to
make a
start
prototype.
out. Yeah, that
Blueprint
makes sense.
makes a prototype. Prototype is usually the first creation of an idea.
Okay. So that would be second wave.
Second wave.
Okay. And then you go from prototype to
First users,
first users, and then I guess the last one would be more like mass
mass users, yeah.
production. Yeah.
So it goes. Hold on. Conception / blueprint. That's the first wave. Then second wave is prototype. Third wave is first user.
The first one is like ideas to blueprint.
Ideas to blueprint. Yeah.
Second is blueprint to prototype.
I see.
And you can look at the mojos doing these things, and it does make a lot of sense. Like you see, like their place in the world. What are NES Alpha doing? What are NES Tandems doing? They're doing a lot of those things most of the time. They gravitate towards that.
So ideas to blueprint is first wave, and then
Right. Second wave is blueprint to prototype. Then third wave is prototype to
You said first users. I mean,
First
I'm sure you
users.
know the term, but that's sort of I
Yeah.
know what you mean. I guess I get what you're. And then
Right.
you know, VES Alpha is like really taking that and then getting into like the mass. It's just the general accepted establishment, basically.
I always thought this was like really interesting getting into. I kind of forgot what the words were, but it sounds cool. Ideas, blueprint, prototype, first user.
But I think wave one is ideas to blueprint. Wave two is blueprint to prototype. Wave three is prototype to initial usage. And then wave four is I'd say initial public usage. And then wave four is initial public usage to mass public usage.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Okay, so initial public usage. Okay.
Yeah, like Vi and V are like the end. They're like, you know, just what is just there and what is like
Well,
established.
the V is going to go with what is accessible.
Yeah.
And I is going to go with what has been tested.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's how widespread and its longevity.
Mm-hmm. And we know Ned's alpha. Although we can do that, we don't tend to gravitate towards that.
No. Indeed. So with that in place, do you guys? I'm not sure exactly what. Let me do it again. Let me ask this question here. So we said those already. That exactly what he asked was change flow. This is still a new term for me. It's mentioned in a few videos and posts, but it's not referenced a lot. Maybe I'm following, watching. Okay, well, he doesn't really ask much more besides what it is. I think we got to describe it there.
Yeah, and I should
did.
also say, Multirational, if you wanted more on that, I know I've, on Truthfire Dragon, Coach had this whole, 200 video series, Truthfire Trialogue, I don't remember which one it was, but I asked some questions about change flow once that I was curious about. It was something that fascinated me, and I know Coach devoted, a whole hour or so to talking about it. So you could probably look it up on the Truthfire. You could probably look it up on the forum. You could type it in as a search term, change flow, and you'd probably find a video on it.
That might help him. That's good. Here's another one. Just kind of throw some things out here. He was asking about when talking about statehood. One thing I think is a challenge, and then I'll challenge it. And the other one, I think, is a question. He's saying, I can't really factor the importance of the other elements that brought the political change, excluding Karl Marx's ideas, the context of Castro's revolution. We should always try. You should always try. But you should always have every opinion that you have a date and a context. And then you make a new opinion later on. You know what I mean? You don't want to actually just say there's too many elements and just give up. That's not the way a seeker works. He says, I'm certain that it was pivotal. It is. All cultural change and technological change affected how we got here where we are right now. And we need to understand that going forward. They're all related. And if you don't understand those relationships, then you see these things as distinct bubbles that don't actually connect one another. And if you do that, the math will never work out. Okay. Technology and greater resources seems to help more on the statehood side and rarely on the change side. That's an incorrect premise. Technology of cracking atoms helps everyone. It hurts everyone if it goes bad. Discovering how hygiene works in relation to, combating the spread of disease. That affects statehoods and individual family members losing their daughter or not losing their daughter. You know what I mean? So this gets back to the way he looks at things. He needs to come from a more nigh, all-inclusive perspective, is that there's nothing in natural law that serves any one quarter more than others. It just is. And then various bubbles try and take advantage to serve themselves. But natural law itself, gravity does not serve planes. Planes might be, or rockets might be one of our pinnacle examples of how we use gravity's forces to our advantage, but it doesn't specifically serve rocket scientists over someone making chicken noodle soup.
Yeah, to the extent that it actually is natural law, it's universal. That's the question, And so you make better and better theories of gravity that apply to more and more things. Like you start with Newton's gravity, which applies really just in most standard situations of the Earth, but then you get general relativity, which describes the whole cosmos extremely well, but not perfectly.
Right. But the various aspects of that may make some very impressive overt manifestations, that doesn't mean that gravity was specifically
exactly
there for rocket scientists.
No.
No, so
it wouldn't work. It was.
I think it's also this is where it could be an issue of weak nigh. It's making statehood somehow the benefactor of natural law's blessings, and that's a big mistake. Statehoods are an accumulation of natural law's blessings that they've currently been able to keep hold of. They're nothing more and they're nothing less. And think of them as something else than that is going to misconstrue things. Because statehoods are beholden to natural law. They're not favored by natural law. Big difference.
Mm-hmm.
If this keeps up, which it doesn't, we just addressed that, but if this keeps up, the state would be too powerful for any change. No. No statehood is ever going to be more powerful than a tsunami, or meteor, or mojo, or the attraction between a Naiji and a Nijai. No statehood will ever be more powerful than the blood type O or the blood type A negative. No, they will never be that powerful. So if you're talking about change in that we knew what blood types were when we used to not know what they were, no state is ever going to be able to control that kind of power. They'll make you believe it if you're foolish enough to let them do so, but no. No state has the power over natural law, life and death, blood types, mojo. No, they do not. Never have, never will.
Well, hold on. Statehood is when we say statehood, are we talking about like people in general, or are we talking about like?
We're talking about statehood from I think the perspective of like
an ideology.
Ideology, but I think we need more like political states and the military and commercial influence they exert.
Yeah, ideology is more abstract. It's more something a state would be based upon.
That when technology comes on the board, it services statehoods greater than it services the all. So statehoods will just be above. No, technology is going to make life better for Naiji artists, Naizi research scientists, everyone, and it's also going to make Zenai and Baiji politicos more powerful in their job. It's just a new tool on the table. That's like saying computers only help scientists. You know?
Clearly not. Oh man, I guess we're kind of stuck.
That's kind of what he's saying here. That's just not the way it works.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about North Korea. How much time would it take to truly change things in that situation?
I have no fucking clue.
Okay, so this gets into what he's asking about. As long as you can confuse people about what the truth is, then that false truth can stay in pretend charge for that amount of time. It's only a minor period before truth keeps doing what it's always been doing. So, in the case of North Korea, nothing has changed in natural law. Humans need to defecate, and they need to urinate. And North Korea's leaders telling
their emperors they don't.
Yeah, telling their people that they don't do this does not change the natural law of it. If you autopsy their bodies, nothing in that autopsy is going to confirm that that's just bullshit. Okay, so
Did I actually say that's what's up?
the North Korean people are in a large degree brainwashed. But you can't brainwash someone out of being a Naiji. So if you have a Naiji father, for example, in North Korea, and gives birth to a Naiji son, or it could be mother to a daughter, it doesn't matter. But you have a Naiji giving birth to a Naiji kid. If North Korea stops influencing that family, it's just going to keep doing Naiji stuff. Even when you influence with North Korean brainwashing that their leaders are divine and don't defecate, Naiji are still having independence of thought that's resisting that. Naiji independence of mind is a species-wide phenomenon from the beginning of humans and beyond, and will continue to be here. The moment you stop brainwashing a gazelle on how it should run, it'll start running like a gazelle. It was built by natural law to run like a gazelle. You put it in a room as a young gazelle, fresh out of being a fetus, and you give it like strange, bizarre music it needs to keep tempo to, or you're going to like stab it in its hooves. Yes, it'll walk all goofy. So goofy you're wondering, how will it ever change? you can always get a gazelle to realize it's a gazelle. You'll have to fight through the brainwashing. But then if that gazelle gives birth to another gazelle, and you don't put it in a strange, bizarre underworld lab listening to like death metal and being told to break dance, it's going to be a gazelle. So no false statehood can ever exert. All it can do is suppress for periods of time. It can never change natural law of humans, and it can never outlast it.
Yeah.
So what? Short answer to this question, I would say a half to one generation. The generation that's currently fucked up, they can actually get the realization that they are fucked up and try to deprogram themselves. The generation being born that has not yet been given that crap, you could just ship them off to any other place in the world and raise them, and bingo, problem solved. If they were to play the same stupid shit, the same amount of time they're spent on the internet and the radio, spewing the stupid stuff that's being said in that state, saying correct stuff, it'll be just as influential in the same amount of time, except be bonus stacked by the fact that the people would resonate with it. So don't be impressed by 50 years of conditioning people to be stupid. Be impressed by eons of evolution that have brought us to the moment we are now with our mojo. Otherwise, you are betting on the wrong team.
One has a much better track record than the
Much
other.
better track record, and it's going to be here long after this other player is gone. And even still, all you're doing, like in IG, you have a bunch of IG that either are, use their IG-ness to try to make sense of this crap he's telling them, and eventually they'll realize it's not true, or ones that actually already realize it's not true, but know they can't say it out loud or get killed, and so they do it subversively in their own head to their own families. He's probably paranoid about that, and he should be. All statehood tyrants are paranoid of natural law of humans. They should be, because you cannot legislate peak pathways or social alchemy or spirit forming. That's just stupid. And they know it's stupid, but they want power. They want lots of geisha girls to be sucking them off. They want opium whenever they want it. They want to, you know what I mean? They want that. They don't want the truth. They want a fix. That's the key thing to keep in mind, is dictators of any kind of totalitarian state, they're addicts of their own product. They're dope dealers, and they've now become addicted to their own unhealthy, toxic dope. And so what they are telling you existence is, you can pretty much just burn, throw away. It means nothing. All they want is for you to actually give them more whatever they think they need. They have a big hole in them because their peak pathway is not satisfied, and they think that actually getting, caviar is going to fix it. That getting plane rides to special places is going to fix it, when it's not.
I'm interested, Coach. You said that it would likely only last like another half a generation to a generation or something. Was your prediction on like the situation in North Korea?
No. Thank you. Clarification. When truth has been intervened. So the moment you expose a poorly conditioned culture to actually truth, and they're actually given that as their main diet, then I don't think it takes more than a generation and a half. It's always going to take longer to like fully.
Yeah, because like I mean, if you keep like if you continue to be successful at like suppressing it, like, and they're not exposed to it, they're just like completely shut off from the outside world. I mean, they're not really going to be able to. I mean, unless they are able to get information, or something happens that sparks change in some way where they, unless like a revolution starts up or some event happens within themselves, nothing is really going to get done.
I agree with what you're saying, except for one critical change, Ben. Not if. Not if.
When.
When. And that's the key thing. You're going to have, every generation, a bunch of Naiji born. As a totalitarian dictator, that's a major fucking issue. Of every threat to your regime, the fact that your own people are producing Niji, that's the greatest threat there is. There's nothing you can do about it. And Niji. You're going to have armed revolutionaries from somewhere. It's going to be Niji, and it's just going to happen. It's part of actually human species. So, yes, you can suppress for a while, but you cannot shut it down. It's just going to...
It's going to keep getting upset and keep doing shit.
Right.
I mean,
if you get Niji have not. And every time you send your Niji brainwashed super agent to be more of a super agent, there's a problem. You have to give super agents, to get the next super agent level, new intel. New intel means new abductive reasoning. If you want your secret agent to really be able to like kick the ass out of Americans, they'll have to understand Americans. Uh-oh, that means new information. Every time your Niji secret agent gets new information, there's a chance they're going to break brainwashing. That's the kind of game totalitarian governments play with. They want to be cutting edge, they stay on top. But to stay cutting edge, you have to actually give some natural law to the populace. And some of the populace, particularly Niji, are going to take that and their spirits are going to run with it.
Mm-hmm.
There's never been a totalitarian regime ever, in the history of humans, go look it up, that resistance was shut down. Ever. It has never happened. Not the most totalitarian state ever. There's always resistance. There's only a question of how hard can you shut it down for how long before the resistance finds a way to grow around you. Because Russia's not telling the human species how to procreate its specialists. Neither are death squads in Brazil. Neither are none of the most horrific things you've ever seen are ever going to kill like everyone but 20 people on the planet. I believe strongly they're going to grow back into a larger tribe, and as they do so, they'll recreate the whole collective, including all those troublemakers.
Those Nijez, those.
I know.
You know what this reminds me of?
So long.
Sorry, Glenn, go ahead. I can wait.
I was just going to say, you can only go so long going against the grain of natural law. Natural law will always find a way to correct whatever it is, whatever kind of knots you create. It's too powerful, it's too expansive, it's too big in the macro sense, and the micro sense is I mean, it's impossible to go against it for very long.
But you're going against the greater good. And this is not meant to be touchy-feely, this is a fact. Natural law supports the greater good. If you take a state and you make one family or one set of oligarchs actually receive everything, the overall state is less powerful. It just is. You have a bunch of people who are basically bleeding out to serve one like conglomerate. That's in a very small pocket, those people can get some reward, but they're actually bleeding out everything. That's not sustainable. Mm-hmm. And the greater state is the one that has the most empowered citizens, because that means the state's more empowered. But that means more quality, less ability to have a few people control everything, because natural law does not support that mandate. Natural law does not support a few people, regardless of their fucking talent level or effort or heroic exertion, actually maintaining their position on the well of all the goodies, when the rest of the populace is perpetually birthing and developing people who got talent. Natural law supports the statehood where the largest amount of its citizens are actually exercising their talent together. That is actually the most bonus stack state. So any state that's trying to just get one person to have a bunch of fucking jets and limousines while the vast majority are just, living in hovels, it's always going to get taken over by a stronger state, because that's weak. Because a state that wants to serve one conglomerate will not introduce full internet. It threatens a limited oligarch conglomerate. But that would actually make the rest of the entire statehood smarter, more productive, more able to actually contribute to the greater good. So a state that allows that, they're going to overtake. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, I feel like there's an analogy between this discussion. I mean, it's a pretty obvious analogy, I guess, between this discussion and then when you were talking about how, like, the heart of abductive reasoning, about, like, the way that Niji reasoned about cases. And the problem with people solving cases, Coach, you said, is that it has to be this. It has to be something. It has to be lying.
Right.
There's a lie. There's a murder. That's what the case is about. But Niji are always looking at cases. They're at least, I mean, they're not always doing it. They could fail individually to do it, but Nye done right is going to do this eventually. It's going to ask, what is going on here? It's just going to look. And that's the problem with the more abductive reasoning getting introduced, because that's just what Nye just ambiently does.
It's true. And when you're discussing states, one thing I think you have to do, and states are a good example. I like this as far as like Nye doing what it does. You have to look at truth and let truth be the most moving thing to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, statehoods are so powerful in the world that what happens is you buy their message, or because of how people are reacting to them, saying, oh, that state is evil, they should go, you react to, oh, that's just bad. And it's not that way. There's simply the truth to how things are best done. Some states are doing them to a more limited or more expansive capacity,
mm-hmm.
And natural law rewards accordingly.
Exactly. You'll get better technology. You'll get better, your people just be happier, more productive,
sure.
Stuff like that.
But it's difficult to maintain that detached status when you're being influenced. And statehoods are massive constructs of influence. Mm-hmm. Remember that when you try to think about your family, when you try to think about statehoods, anything like that, when you try to think about the afterlife, you need to think about how influential the fear of death is, how influential state-sponsored media is, how influential your family's approval is when you're trying to come up with the correct answers. Because if you don't, your answers will be off. If you do not account for that much, how much they weigh on you, you'll be off.
And that's why I think Niji are such good detectives. That's why we can come to those cases, because that's what really Niji do. That's kind of like our specialist thing in the tribe, is looking at things that other humans weren't able to, like, look past those influences that were influencing. It's like Einstein. It's the quote he made about how being a good scientist is actually a lot about character.
Yes, for sure.
And that's that. You have to have a brutal honesty to just look at natural law and solve really complex cases. A lot of what's stopping people really isn't just the logic of it, actually. It's that they can't... There's influences there's certain thoughts they're not allowed to have. They don't have access to them because they're not looking at it.
Yeah.
They're taking givens.
Yeah. If I can just say one thing, I agree totally you said, Mitchell. The one word I might change is the word brutal honesty, although there is the element to it. Because I think a lot of people, when they go that route, they feel that natural law is brutal in its honesty, and that's what they veer off. And there is that aspect, for sure. But to me, I think the higher way of looking at it is...
That's a little grim.
It is simply a servitude to the absolutism of natural law. And that definitely includes some brutal honesty, but also includes sublime joy.
Like Zai and Jai, kind of. Like there's the Zai.
People that a lot of times don't get validated because that's the truth of it. But it just is. And you simply have to ask, and Nye's great at this, what is this? And whatever it is, it is. And that can be brutal, that can be uplifting, it can be challenging, it can be comforting, it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah, and I wanted to add on to what Mitchell said there, which is it's hard for people to sort of allow themselves to go into certain areas of thought that, you know, it's difficult for them to go because it implies that they would have to, you know, like cancel, or not cancel, but like sort of like suspend like certain givens.
The implications,
Yeah.
the implications are
Implication,
they
yeah.
can't even process it. They
And,
don't even
and,
try.
and those accepted givens that may need to be questioned, they give comfort, a tremendous amount of comfort they didn't realize they were leaning on.
Or they can be, or on the reverse, they could be overly brutal.
Oh no, but I think what agree, but I think Glenn was mentioning is that that's waiting for them when you're talking about Mitchell, but they have a crutch of comfortability. They don't even realize they're using
Exactly. Yeah.
until they step away from it.
Yeah, and then it can be a little bit painful at first because it's sort of like, like you're having to give up something that you didn't even know that you were addicted to.
Yeah.
But then it feels so much more better later because then you realize that you're more absolute now. You're more independently minded. You're more you don't need that anymore. You just need to just sort of go through a little bit of a what's the word when you people get off of drugs or something? They go through some kind of a thing.
Withdrawal.
You need that sort of to happen. Oh, what was that?
Withdrawals.
Withdrawal. Yeah, you go through that withdrawal, but then once you go through it, then you feel better afterwards, and then
That's
so
because those initial withdrawals, they send powerful signals that the correct way you're walking is incorrect. And you have to actually really hold on to the higher way you're going just to see past that and keep going until you start getting signals you can hear validate the correct course you're going. Sometimes that correct course at first, you'll be told, go away, go away, go away.
Demons. It's like mojo reading. Which voice do you listen to?
You have to listen to that soft voice that's giving you the right answer.
yeah, truth can sometimes be really brutal, but sometimes it can be really soft like that too. It's just a matter of
The combination of being soft and then if you listen to it, it's brutal, makes it easy to go, eh.
yeah, exactly.
I can ignore you for now.
Yeah, I don't really want listening.
But then it will creep up on you later. You'll see it coming.
Exactly.
It'll tell you off when the right answer is revealed.
It has that Rolling Stones lyric, time is on my side.
It's natural law. It's like soft. It's like nigh. Nigh in general. It's soft. You can ignore nigh more than any other power. It's it's just but it's extremely implacable.
No, because it had its way, and whatever its way comes to the surface.
Yeah.
Z, V, whatever.
It just takes a long time. It's a long peaking cycle, but once it gets there, you can't get natural law's way.
Long and/or subtle, but when it shows itself, it's got natural law's backing it. That's it. Kind of like when those MMA fighters get Naiji does some weird move, and then he says, "Look at the face like that's not possible." It is now.
Or like a hand in cards that's just you can't beat that hand. I mean,
I
it
love
doesn't
it
matter
when
what you
people
get.
say that. I love it when people just say that's not possible. It's like yeah, it
You
is.
got bad hand? What?
What?
I love it when they say with their eyes as you do it to them. Their eyes just say to you like,
Yeah.
I can't believe what's happening right now. I know.
Isn't it cool?
Isn't that right? Isn't it cool? You're going to remember this day. You're playing this day back a million times in your head. All right. I think we did a good job answering those questions, and it's 7:38, so we should probably call it. Does anyone have anything they want to chime in for last thought before we take off?
No, not really. Not for me.
Then we'll see what comes up on the forums for next time. And Glenn, if you want, we can do it for next time. If you need more time to percolate, that's cool too. But we'll definitely be taking on more cases next time. Dun, dun, dun. All right, everybody. Have a great night, and I will see you all on Sunday.
All
Good
right.
night, everyone. That was a lot of fun.
It was fun. Night. Good stuff.
See ya.
Awesome. Good night.